Hey, this is Jimmy Archer, and I'm here with Brandon Dwight, the owner of Boulder Cycle Sport and a pro cyclocross racer. We're going to be talking a little cyclocross today, something that I'm actually fairly unfamiliar with. So Brandon's going to be walking us through the basics of the sport, what it's all about, and talk a little bit about his bike, and we're going to do some skills video for you as well. So why don't you just tell me what basically cyclocross is? Like, what is the sport all about?
Well, the cyclocross was developed kind of in the early, I don't say the early 1900s, but like maybe around 1950, 1960 as a way for the...
Back in the day.
Yeah. Seems like forever ago. As a way for the road racers to stay in shape in the off-season. And the courses are traditionally 60% off-road, 40% on pavement or hard pack. So the bikes... Well, they didn't have mountain bikes back then, so they just basically modified their road bikes so that they could do cyclocross. And one of the main modifications that they would do is allow for wider tires. To do that, you need more clearance in the braking area. So that's why cyclocross bikes
got the old mid-90s style
cantilever brakes. So this allows for you to use a wider tire and allows for more mud clearance when you do have a muddy race.
Yeah.
So
which you're going to run into quite a bit because it's kind of a winter sport. Yeah.
That's another thing about cyclocross is unless it's a blizzard like we saw in New England Nationals last year, you're pretty much going to have a race, rain or shine. So you got to be prepared for everything. So so the cross bikes also have a little bit different geometry than your typical road bike. It's gonna, well, it depends on the manufacturer, but some of the highlights are going to be a bigger triangle here, so that allows you to have room to shoulder the bike, and also a higher bottom bracket just for more clearance over, rough terrain and things like that. So you might also find a little bit slacker head tube angle just for steering. They don't have to be as quick as, say, a road bike. So. And you also find more clearance in the rear near the chain stays just for more mud clearance down there as well, so that'll accommodate wider tires and you won't get hung up. So
it looks like you've got some frame reinforcing in a couple of places here, so I mean obviously you're probably dealing with a little bit rougher conditions than you're looking at on a
little bit rougher,
bike.
More rough terrain. The frames are going to be pretty beefy, but they're light still. They just reinforce them in the right areas. I mean, this bike, I've been able to build it up. It's just a hair over 17 pounds, so that's lighter than some road bikes. So,
and lighter than a mountain bike too. So if you're coming from mountain bike, it's going to be a little lighter too. That's kind of the general theme. It seems like with everything is it's still light and fast, but just a little bit beefier. I mean, you've got the zip wheels you're running here. These are the cyclocross wheels,
right? Those are the cyclocross specific.
So you've got the same basic 404 profile rim, but more spokes, a couple of crosses in there.
Yep.
Basically, it's like a time trial wheel, but for cyclocross. So it's beefy,
and that's
but light.
You want something that's efficient, light, laterally stiff. I mean, cross is about an hour of suffering. Yeah. So it's not all about comfort so much as it is performance. So it is a time trial in a sense. Yep. So having something that's light and efficient and quick is very important.
So talking about the race, actually, it's generally about an hour. Mm-hmm. Is it crit format where you're doing an hour, so you do however many laps, and then kind of they take a random estimation of what your time is and ring the bell with 2 or 3 to go?
That's what they do because, like I said before, cross happens rain or shine. So you could do a course on a 70-degree day and do 10 laps in an hour, but you could do that same course a week later in a storm, snowstorm or rain, and maybe only do 6 laps in an hour. Yep. So they have to average lap times. So when you start a race, you have no idea how many laps you're going to do. You know you're going to be racing for an hour, but you don't know how many laps, and you don't know how many miles. A lot of people ask, oh, how many miles was the race? And I never know. I know it's an hour.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
That's what they do. They average the lap times, and then you'll just come through the start-finish, and you'll see a lap counter, and hopefully it says 4 to go instead of 6 to go, or something like that. But and then it depends on your category. The elite men race for 1 hour, and I believe the women race for 45 minutes, and most of the masters categories are 45 minutes, and even I think some of the junior categories might even be as short as like 40 minutes. Regardless if you race cyclocross, having a cyclocross bike in your quiver of bikes is a great off-season training tool, because you can take it on your favorite mountain bike trails, dirt roads, and you're gonna get into situations that require you to think about, rounding a corner or hitting a little descent. When you're on your road bike and you're training in the winter, you're just on autopilot. And You're just kind of going. You're not working on any technical skills. And riding a cross bike on terrain that you normally wouldn't ride on is only going to enhance your skills, cornering, descending, all sorts of stuff. So,
and it lets you get out there and in areas that you probably normally wouldn't ride. Some dirt roads, some smooth trails, maybe even some bike paths, things like that. Just break up the monotony of the off season a bit.
And racing cross will just force you to push yourself in more technical conditions that you may not do just out training. So it'll definitely help your technical skills, absolutely.
So as kind of being a shorter event, if your main season is more the summer, if you're a road racer, you're a triathlete, mountain bike, whatever, how does cross benefit that? Is there any risk of, trying to race cross is just going to make you tired the rest of the year? You're doing too much year round. Or do you have a chance? Is it just kind of a different ball game altogether, basically?
When I used to race mountain bikes, I would take basically 2 solid weeks off at the end of the season. And that would mean I'd skip a couple early season cross races, but it was just, you needed that time to recuperate and give your body a chance to rest. And then I would just kind of race into the season. Now I don't race in the summer, so I sort of train in the summer and try to be ready to go when the season starts. I found that if you just give yourself a break in between seasons, good solid 2 weeks, before cyclocross and after cyclocross, it doesn't seem to hurt you. I think it can only help.
It just gives you another direction to head during the off season. Kind of keep a finger on a little bit of sharpness, but it's not going to be detrimental.
And it's gonna help your technical skills, like we said, and just keep the top end up there, and maybe give you some things to think about that maybe you need to work on when you do start training for your triathlon road or mountain bike seasons.
All right. And just one last thing. What is the, basically what's a cross bike going to run? What's the kind of range of price that you're looking at if you want to get into cross?
Yeah. Well, you can do 3 things. You can cob together just an old frame and go to the bum parts off your friends and put together a bike, and it'll get you through the season just fine. You can do that on the cheap. You can also modify a mountain bike as long as you're not racing in the UCI elite category. So modifying a mountain bike would be putting on a rigid fork and just a narrower tire. You can certainly race that. And then buying a new cross bike. And prices usually range anywhere from about $900, and the sky's the limit. You could spend a lot, but $1,500 would get you a bike that's definitely race ready without too many improvements needed. So.